right. So this is the Littleton Sustainability Committee meeting for Thursday, May 1st, 2025. And we'll start with a member roll call.
I have Sarah Rombacher, Chair, Charlotte Dolenz, myself, Margaret Gibbs, Rob Houston, and Don McIver. And I think Don's mic is hot right now. So if Don, if you can mute if you're not talking, thank you. Absent is John Hagberg and Emily Squires, and we have guests Michelle Zelenka, our sustainability. Um, what's the title?
Regional Energy Manager.
Regional Energy Manager. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Margaret. And so next up is approving the minutes from the last meeting. Those were shared with the committee to review. Did anyone have any comments?
Yeah, I just looked at it quickly, but I haven't read it thoroughly, but they're usually very good. So, yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right, if there are no comments, then if there's a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve them.
All right, and is there a second?
I don't have a vote, so I can't do either of those things. Sorry.
I'm not sure if I can second it.
I'll second it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so all in favor of approving the minutes as distributed. Charlotte.
Yes.
Rob.
Abstain since I missed the meeting. My apologies.
Okay, Don.
Yes.
Margaret.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, next on the agenda is public input, but I don't think we have any members of the public attending. So we'll go on to climate action plan. So to go over the status and talk about outreach. And Michelle, do you want to talk about the potential adjustment to scope first, or do you want to go through the other things?
Yeah, I can just give like a brief update, and then maybe we can, I guess it's sort of part of the update as well, like kind of working out the scope. So we can kind of roll into that. But yeah, for updates, I've been doing a lot of data gathering from municipal planning documents. And I have kind of an outline of baseline conditions for the town. The reason for doing that, I think, is just it's going to be helpful once we start kind of writing the climate action plan to understand things like demographics, landscape, and natural resources in the town, as well as vulnerabilities. So I am finishing up that, and it should be complete within the week. And then as Sarah and Charlotte, I've been also working on the outreach, and I provided an example of a flyer that can be used for public meetings, tabling. And then Charlotte, also, you helped write the blurb for a newsletter. And so those are my updates. I've also reached out to Dave Riley to speak with him, and I've met with Connor from the Municipal Light Department. So he was helpful in kind of giving me an overview of their sustainability programs, as well as provide some data that'll be useful for the greenhouse gas inventory, which I've started to work on. The MAPC has a tool for gathering data related to greenhouse gas inventories. So I'm planning to start working on that and kind of getting all of that data together. I'm not sure, did you want to talk about like outreach opportunities, like I think the town meeting was one, as well as third Thursdays. And then I think we also were thinking of like using the Energized Littleton website as kind of a potential avenue for updates as well.
Yeah, before we go into that, because it might affect it a tiny bit, I did want to bring up, so Diane Dickerson said that there is a need for adding in, gathering some data about some of the buildings that weren't in the previous, I don't know, Michelle, you might be able to use the right, I don't know the right database names.
So basically when Littleton became a green community, one of the requirements was having an energy reduction plan, which kind of outlines the town's goals to reduce its energy use by 20%. So basically, a lot of times, like the information comes from like audits from like consultants. So they'll come up with kind of a list of measures that can be used to improve energy usage in municipal buildings, and those kind of go into the energy reduction plan. But there's like the baseline that has, you know, whatever a certain number of municipal buildings. But if you want to add a building, you have to create a new like energy reduction plan and have new energy conservation measures. So I think, and you also need to add that data into MEI, which is the database used to track energy usage for municipal buildings that are part of the green communities. So Diane had mentioned, and we spoke with Kelly Brown a little bit. She's the Green Communities representative at the Department of Energy Resources. She mentioned that that's something I could assist with, getting that database updated and help create a new plan.
And that data is also something that will be useful for the climate action plan.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It'll be helpful. You know, it's all related to kind of decarbonization efforts, and yeah.
And so the, I think the upshot of that was that it may, if you do this, it would take maybe a couple of months that you would be kind of doing that, and that's maybe some of there was a lot of outreach in the next couple of months. So it might mean that the committee can, you know, focus more on the outreach while you do that data collection, and then you'd be back on track with what we were.
Yeah. Diane,
our plan, right?
Had mentioned that potentially like the sustainability committee sort of assisting on that end with the outreach. That's one, I guess, potential way of sort of assisting with that, I think.
Okay. Yeah, Don, I saw your hand go up. Why don't you go next? But we are, every time you unmute, we're getting, I don't know, a lot of background noise coming through. So that's why I did mute you, just so you know. Also, just so you know, we can't actually see anything but the top of your head.
Okay. So just quickly, from what I understand, somebody where you're saying, you know, we have new buildings like the senior center. So you add it in as however you're allowed to do it. And I gather our baseline is when we join the green community program, which I think is 2016. And if anyone knows better, it'd be nice to know that. So I gather that's what the situation is. So for a new building that has never been fired up at all, what do you do? Do you have a certain approach, and you have to estimate somehow. I mean, you can't do an audit of it because it hasn't been operating.
Yeah, I plan to meet with Kelly Brown from Door, who can kind of help answer some of those questions. But with a new building, it might just need to be added to the baseline, because once it's added to the baseline, you're able to apply for future grants from green communities. So I can double check on that. I can also double check on what the town's baseline year is, because sometimes, and I'm using Townsend as an example, they applied to become a green community in around like 2012, I believe, but their baseline year is 2010, just because that's when there's the most accurate data and most complete data. So I can double check on that.
Yeah, it's hard to be accurate. So some ways it's really measuring a trend. But the hard thing with a new building is that having a baseline, you're supposed to improve upon it. If you start off at zero, how do you improve upon that? So I'm sure there's some way to deal with that. So okay, just raise it. I think Diane had mentioned your 2016 for our baseline, but you'll figure it out, whatever that is.
Yeah. I can take a look in MEI's database. They have that listed.
Okay.
And my understanding is it's also important to get those buildings in the baseline, because we need to show a decrease. But as if your baseline is here and you add buildings, it's very hard to show a decrease when you're adding buildings. So that's why we need to update that.
I'm sure
Charlotte,
someone's dealt with it. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Charlotte.
On that note, though, if we're successful in some of the sustainability measures for the new school, maybe a new building will actually still result in a reduction. But my question was a little bit more about the outreach side of things. So, I noted on the agenda, we have a lot of different opportunities for outreach, but one of the things that still, I think I would find, I would struggle with maybe articulating to a community member what exactly they may see tangibly change in their community. I think it's kind of easier in a way to explain some of the more conceptual pieces and overall reductions in emissions and such. Do you have, in your experience, like talking points that you would suggest that we kind of embrace around that more, I guess, concrete change that one might expect or anticipate under, with the town with a climate action plan?
Yeah, I know in the past, other communities have kind of showed. So one example I believe is Arlington. They kind of produced outreach material that showed, in their case, it was like money saved if they were to adopt, for example, heat pumps or. So I feel like having a lot of times like cost related information is definitely helpful. So I can definitely also kind of look into what other communities have done to kind of see how they approach that.
Okay,
Don.
Yeah, just quickly, I had sent out something to everyone about the definition of a triple bottom line, and my looking at these poster, the one thing I saw missing was that it should lead to economic savings, because that will come up when people see something like that. They'll see it as an extra program, and their first concern is, will it cost us more? And one of the major selling points of doing a climate action plan is that it should save you money. So I don't know how that gets introduced, but it all comes from the concept of the triple bottom line, which is, meant for businesses primarily. And they talk about the 3 Ps. People, it's good for, essentially social purposes. There's a benefit to people that way. Also for profit, for businesses. which is really economic, and then for planet, which is environmental. So somehow we have to incorporate that. I'm not suggesting a major redoing of the poster, but it should either say something about triple bottom line, and I can explain later, or something about economics, because that will be more of a driving force for people. I mean, some people be inspired by doing something environmentally better, but it's the economics that is the wider thing that pulls people along. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw it out, and I forwarded an email with sort of description that just so everyone gets to see it. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely agree with that. And it's something I'm kind of working on with Townsend as well, trying to figure out how to best reach people and kind of get them really interested in climate action planning.
So I can go ahead and share my screen so that everyone can see the flyer and we can talk about that. If I get the right one. There we go. Okay, hopefully that's showing up for you guys. So I guess first of all, thank you, Michelle, for changing the background so that it'll be easier to print.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Don, did you have something more?
Just quickly, as you point out, the contrast is good, and as someone deals with user interfaces, that makes a big difference. So the thing I quickly looked at, it looks good. I mentioned the economic aspect. On the bottom, you have major factors or areas to be concerned. It's nice that you have probably with 4 major things: mobility, buildings, and then energy is another one. And I was glad to see you have conservation there, which is really sort of mitigation factor. And I guess water is concerned too. But anyway, it hits the major factors, at least 4 of them. I know in other climate action plans, sometimes there are 7 or so different factors, but these are the major factors. So I thought that was very good.
Thank you.
I have a question, if I may, about going to the Energize Littleton. Is the intent that there's going to be a survey on there for people to talk about it?
Yeah, I think that's an open question of what do we want to put on there. We can use an action to put information about it. That's probably the easiest.
I guess looking at the Energized Littleton website, I know it's run by the Sustainability Committee. Is that correct? Okay, I wasn't sure because I saw like Mass Clean Energy or something like hosting it, but I just wanted to check that.
Mass Energize is
Mass Energize, yeah.
The hosting, they provide the hosting for it, and but we provide the content for it.
Okay.
So I can, we can go in and make an action that would be. We can talk about what it would be, whether it's just like the first action is just, read about what a climate action plan is, maybe. And then when we start having, like when we're going to have a forum, we can create that as an event. Honestly, we don't have a lot of people coming to this yet. So we'll definitely need to rely on some other avenues of getting people there too, but yes, as a place to point people when we hand out the flyer, then the other thing I can do is when we have that action, we can feature that on the homepage. So if the QR code just goes to our homepage, we can make sure to have that climate action plan info pulled up to that top level. Okay, sorry, I didn't see who raised their hand first. Charlotte, you're at the top, so I'll assume it was you.
Yeah, and just I am finding it a little hard to hear. There is still some background noise coming through. I don't actually know where that's coming from, but it keeps on creeping in. I don't know where that, but yeah, sorry. I think I was able to hear most of what was said. I was just wondering, and it may be more trouble than it's worth, but for one of the other committees, I've noticed they do have an email address for the specific questions. Now, Michelle, that might be more than you bargained for to have that, but that is one option, to have a sort of Littleton Climate Action Plan questions at, where hopefully substantive and important questions would come your way, and you wouldn't get too much spam. But I guess that is one way of being able to field questions if we wanted to go that route. Yeah, and then I guess I was also just going to ask, are we also planning on making this into the potential for a digital flyer? I might suggest a couple formatting tweaks if that was the case. I think for printing it, looks great, but I wonder if we just want to make sure that if it's going out as a digital flyer, that we can have some clickable links in there as well potentially. I wasn't sure what your plans were for that.
Yeah, we could definitely make it into a digital flyer. Do you have ideas for like where that could be hosted, or like, I don't know, maybe like a newsletter almost is kind of what I'm thinking, but
I was going to say, I actually went ahead and sent this in to the person who does our town newsletter. So it should be in the May newsletter that should be coming out. I don't know if it didn't come out today, it should be very soon. So I just sent it to her as is. But going forward, we could certainly put in clickable links, or and I was also going to say, in case you guys didn't remember, we do have an email address, sustainability@littletonma dot whatever we are, or so we do have that email address if we want to use that. Margaret, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just want to say, if I was seeing this on the newsletter, and I saw the Your Voice Matters and then that URL, I would think that that is where I'm supposed to tell people something. So if you don't want people to get frustrated, I would suggest either having a place, as Charlotte suggested, on the Energize Littleton that will let people contact us about it, or put the Your Voice Matters somewhere else entirely, because putting it right there means that people like me anyway will think we can say something, and then we're going to say, what? Why can't we say anything here? And then not have a very good taste in our mouth about it. Okay.
And just quickly chiming in on some of those other places we might want to think about posting, just social media generally, within sort of the various Littleton forums and such. That's what I kind of had in mind when I was thinking if it was even just an image that we could post as well. Updated.
And
yeah, for social media, we might want to.
Bad of it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
On the social media aspect, so I could maybe make some more social media oriented versions of this. I'd be happy to do that, because that a big flyer format like this doesn't work great on Facebook or Instagram. I'm sorry, I forget what else I was going to say. Maybe I should just let you talk, Michelle. If you
Yeah,
had
I mean,
comments about that.
I could also assist with that. I will admit I'm actually not the most social media savvy person, but I can do, like Instagram, Facebook, all of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Margaret, knowing, I mean, the Energize Littleton site, so what do you think would be a good place to point them to?
Well, I guess I am sort of with Charlotte that maybe there would be something here about sustainability at littletonma.org. Or if there is something on Energize Littleton, to make sure that it goes directly to the Contact Us page. If you don't want to have a survey or other thing put on there, don't we have a Contact Us?
We do. How about this as an idea? What about leaving your voice matters there and adding in the email address, and then we could put some text right under the QR code that says "Learn more," and then that could go to an action where we have a lot more flexibility on like putting some additional information about climate action plans there. I think if we just dump them into the contact page, yes, they could contact us, but it's sort of like
Okay. Well,
bringing them in the side door.
Why don't we have, instead of the Your Voice Matters be such a big part there, something like learn more about climate action plans, and we want to hear your voice later on in it. We want to hear your voice, and then the email address with that. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm not saying it well enough. Okay, so you started out Your Voice Matters. Instead of Your Voice Matters, put down learn more about climate action plans at the URL, and then put the URL, which I can't see now anymore on my screen. Can you move down a little more on it, or not?
I can make my window shorter and then adjust it. Is this what you're looking for? Can you see it now?
I guess. Okay. Oh, I have to put my pointer somewhere else. Okay. So it could start, yeah. And so you could say scan the QR code on the right or visit Energize Littleton's website, and that would be your first part. And then your second part underneath that could be Your Voice Matters. If you, we would like to hear your ideas, concerns, and priorities. Please contact us at sustainability@littletonma.org. So it's basically two different things you're saying rather than just one, which it's too big a block, I guess.
There's a lot of text there, I think.
Yeah.
Simplifying the language could be good.
Just to have two different points. Right. When you look at it now, it looks like there's just one point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really like that, Margaret, like, because we are really saying two things: learn more, or contact us. And I think you could actually get rid of quite a bit of the language. I feel like if someone's comfortable with a QR code, they don't need to be told what to do with a QR code. They're either sort of they're in it or they're on
That is true,
on it
yeah.
or they're so somebody that looks at that and goes, what the heck, I'm not doing that, or they're like, got it. So I think you can probably simplify that language down. I would agree 100% with Margaret, and make sure that there's just those two clear messages, like this is where you can learn, QR code, this is where you can contact us, email address.
Yeah, I like that. And as I'm kind of looking at it, like just it's starting to kind of run to the very edge of that green part there. So I think that'll definitely, like you were saying, kind of help clear it a little bit up.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see. Town meeting is on. Let me go over to the agenda. So town meeting is on Tuesday. And I did ask the town clerk for permission to hand out flyers. And so we can be in the lobby and hand out flyers if we want to do that. And Diane said we can probably print them there if we want to print black and white. If we want to do color, then we need to use some of our budget and go print them at Staples or something, I guess. So I guess one, we'd want to, I don't know if you think that you can make those changes in the next day or so.
No, yeah,
or at least by
I was
Monday.
just thinking like I could definitely do that by Monday, even like Friday afternoon. So yeah.
Well, one last thing, I guess. I'm sorry to be late to the party, but can you put it back up one more time? I just have one quick comment.
Yep. Did you want to? Which part?
On the right-hand side, why create a climate action plan, right? To Don's point, we got to figure out a place to put in economic or money. So it seems to me that you've got 3 bullet points under a CAP helps Littleton, right?
Yep.
And one of those bullet points, a 4th bullet point, would be to simply say, save the town money, or, save taxpayer money, or I don't know what the exact language is, but it seems like that's the place to put it, and it could be almost as simple as that, right? I don't know. So I just wanted to bring that up, and because I think if you're going to run it to print, we should find a place for Don's idea now.
Yeah.
But I don't think
my
we have a lot of
guess
extra room, which is why I think it's something simple.
My guess is, Michelle, you can probably nudge the buildings, wastewater, and energy down and fit in another bullet, maybe.
Yeah.
And
and whatever the best little phrase is that you pull off of Don's email. Maybe again, I guess we trust you to put in a bullet that matches what he said in his email somewhere. Again, you've done a terrific job here. I don't think we want to micromanage it. I think that's the place to put it, whatever it says.
Just quickly, what I said out was really from a business perspective. So really, economics, save money, cost reduction, whatever seems to make sense.
Sounds good. Yeah, I can definitely get that added in with the other changes as well. Thank you.
As far as environment, the people who are in favor of environment already get it. So I mean, that would be the other thing. But economics is the major thing to make sure you get in there.
Yeah, I agree. Yesterday at the conference, that was a pretty major theme. Was the economics are really what get people started and excited.
Yeah.
By the way, the other part is already there. And really the other thing, if you could figure out how to put a nice little picture, right? You've already got conservation, mobility, outreach. I mean, you've got pictures for things that grab your attention if you're otherwise sustainably inclined, right?
A dollar
There's
sign.
nothing here that a dollar sign or something, save dollars, or something that grabs your pictorial view, if you will. All right, that was all.
Yeah, I can play around with that, and like Don said, maybe add just a big dollar sign or something.
It fits.
If there is a chance
Okay.
to knock off a couple of them in color, I think we probably worth having a couple of eye-catching flyers. We're going to hand some out. I still give, I think, a lot of credit where credit's due to the school project. They've got some pretty glossy looking flyers that grab your attention. So if there's a chance to do that, I think that might help to get people's eyes on it.
I guess I would say yes and no on that. Just personally, that we're kind of early on, and I think handing out the flyer, even if it were black and white at town meeting, would get a lot of eyes on it. But then if we're going to spend budget, we might want to save it for something later on.
Yeah, if black and white works fine. You know, sort of initial thing. If you want to prove it and want to color, that's another level. But you just want to get the message out.
So I don't have a really beautiful laser printer or anything, but I do have color inkjet. And if somebody's willing to pick up, like, I don't know how many you want to have in color, but I could print out 100, I think, if I had it in time to print.
I also,
yeah,
sorry.
Libraries have color printers, laser printers. Yeah, Lowton has a good one that when it works, but other libraries too.
I'm talking about, you don't have to use your budget for me. That's what I'm talking about.
I also will be meeting with Dave Riley and Diane in person on Tuesday. I could maybe see if I could print some off at NIMCOG. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that. I don't see why not, but I can double check and see, and maybe bring like a stack or something.
And I will not be able to be reachable on Tuesday, unfortunately. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I've got my boss coming in from another town, and I'm going to be booked.
Okay, well, why don't we, so Michelle, you can make the changes, and then we can touch base. Charlotte, were you thinking that what we hand out on Tuesday all needs to be color, or were you just wanting like a few to?
I was just throwing it out there that if it was an easy thing to do, then it's always a little more eye-catching. But I agree with you what you said, Sarah. It's like if we need to conserve our energies and efforts, then just black and white would also be fine, I'm sure.
Okay, so Michelle, why don't we touch base on Monday, and we'll figure out whether we can print it at the town hall, or if you're able to bring some copies over. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. And Margaret, we don't need to use up your inkjet. Okay. So let me check back with you. So as far as town meeting, so if we are going to hand out flyers, we probably need just a couple people to stand in the lobby. Does anyone want to volunteer to do that?
I can double check my schedule, but if I may, and I can let you know tomorrow. I'd be happy to kind of help with that.
Okay. And yeah, I have jury duty that day, so I can't 100% commit to when I'll be back.
We're not talking about a table. We're talking about just standing there handing them out. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there, obviously. I'm always there, it seems like. So the question I don't know is when I'll be there, but I'm happy to help. So
Yeah,
I don't know that I'll be the first one there that evening, I guess is my point, Sarah.
Yeah, and I'll be there too. My concern is the meeting of the selectmen, and sometimes that goes right up to the meeting time. I'll be there early, but it's a matter of what goes on the agenda for the selectmen's pre-meeting before town meeting.
Okay. I think there's a Shaker Lane presentation immediately before town meeting. Is that right, Charlotte?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I think it's 7. So
I agree. So it's hard telling when the selectmen are going to be meeting, because they always meet beforehand. And last time around, it was rather critical.
Yeah, they said, I think 5:15 select board meeting, 6 p.m. Shaker Lane meeting, 7 p.m.
Okay.
town.
So I'll be there to hand out. Thank you.
Okay.
And because I don't know where it fits in, I just sent that email out to everyone about doing greenhouse gas inventory. And Michelle had mentioned, she'd be using the MAPC tool, which was advised as being the best tool to use or the easiest tool. But at the conference yesterday, it was mentioned there's a new tool that's even easier, and it's done through Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. So I just sent out an email to everyone with a website that you can look at it. And what's of interest there is, where does the data come from? And because there's an overview map of Massachusetts and showed up where the most metric tons of CO2 was coming from, and Littleton was way up there. So I asked, where's this data coming from? And for communities like ours, so it's the municipal light plant community, it's self-reporting that was done, I think, to MCAN for a report card. And I tried to pursue it before because it was high, and it may well be that the electric light department that filled it out or passed it off as being unimportant perhaps screwed up. I did not put that in print, but the real source is maybe you need to get the electric light department to figure out what's happening there. Now, MCAN was doing a revision on these report cards, but then all of a sudden they were in a financial situation, so they stopped that. They had changed executive directors. So I tried to get the original response that Littleton Electric Light Department sent to MCAN, and they were reluctant to share it because they did not want to betray confidentiality or maybe possible confidentiality or embarrass them or whatever. So I don't know how to resolve that, but that's something that needs to be looked at.
Okay. Don, there was also someone there from Bentley who has created a tool, and Diane and I got that link, and I think Diane might have let you know about that, Michelle, too.
Yes.
So that's another resource.
Right. That's the email I just sent out. It has the URL in it, has her name. Well, it has the 3 contact names. The person from Bentley has done some of the programming, but Amy Popelka is the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. She's a contact. Anyway, you have the information there to figure it out. But look at the tool. Actually, the tool looks pretty good. The only thing that was weird was, why is Littleton way up there? Because we don't emit that much CO2, but boy, we're way up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Thank you.
Okay, so just to continue on the outreach, so for Tuesday, so we'll touch base about the flyer and getting it printed. We have people coming right for handing it out, and then I contacted Park and Rec about whether they're going to be doing third Thursdays. They said that they are planning on having them in June, July, and August, but there are no specific plans yet. They said they're trying to take input for what works best or something. So I don't have details about that yet. So I guess at our next meeting, we'll have to see, like, if they are indeed having it on the third Thursday of June, then we'll plan for what we're doing then. And as far as the Energize Littleton site, why don't I take the action to make sure that there is something on the front about climate action plan, and then we can go from there. If is there anything else on climate action plan that we need to discuss? If not, we can go on to the next, which is Baker Lane Building Committee.
All right. Sarah, you want me to give you a little bit of an update there?
Sure. Let me, I'll stop sharing so that you can see faces again.
All right. So I think since we last spoke, the school building committee group had a meeting on April 16th, and then they also had another meeting last night. I'll try to be brief in summarizing where they've got to. So one of the hot topics, as we discussed last time, is this decision around which mechanical system to choose. I think, as you recall, I showed that screenshot, sort of options 1, 2, and 3, which are all electric options, but the choice is still between those 3. If you are interested, if you want to go back to the April 16th School Building Committee meeting recording on LCTV, at about 11.5-minute mark is where they start to discuss the life cycle cost analysis for the mechanical system. So save you the time of having to go through the first 11 minutes and 30 seconds if you want to skip forward straight to there and hear what they've been discussing. In summary, again, options 1, 2, and 3 are all electric. All of the options will meet the MSBA criteria for this additional 3% reimbursement, which is the 3% reimbursement on eligible items across the whole project. So if you have a $100 million project, they'll take the 3% of eligible items. And so you're looking at around, let's say, a $3 million additional reimbursement on top of the MSBA reimbursement, which usually is around 50%, as that's like the minimum standard. So as we discussed last time, each of those options come with different costs and design implications. Last time we discussed they had not completed the life cycle analysis. So we're really just looking at kind of the price tag for each one and the pros and cons of each one of those options. It sort of really is between option 2, which is an air source heat pump, and that has been used as a placeholder in the design schematic so far, versus option 3, which is a ground source heat pump, which I think in Ryan's words during the meeting seems to be a clear win-win. It does look cheaper in the long run. It's a more sophisticated system from a sustainability perspective. The annual energy costs are about $20,000 per year less for this option 3 versus option 2. So you're looking at a reduction in annual operating costs. Option 3, i.e. the ground source, also supposedly lasts about 30 years versus 20 years. And if, big if the tax credit is still available, installation of option 3 could end up even being cheaper than option 2, because you could get, I think it was around a $2 million tax credit for installing the ground source heat pump, which would essentially balance out the initial installation costs. But of course, in today's climate, it's kind of hard to know whether or not that will be there or not. At the end of the day, looking at those pros and cons, to me at least, doesn't seem to be it seems to be that it would weigh out in the end. The project is allowed to plan for option 3, i.e. the ground source, but revert back to option 2 later with no penalty if they were to say, let's go big, let's plan and design for option 3, but construction costs skyrocket, so we can't actually do that. You can actually revert back down to option 2 without any penalties. So the meeting concluded with the team deciding that they do need to, in fact, make a decision around this because the schematic design has to be submitted very soon. So last night, the committee met specifically on this issue, and they voted to estimate the geothermal system as the basis of design and include the air source heat pump system as an alternate. So they basically are going with what they had originally suggested, that they're going to go big and go for the geothermal system, but they'll have the costing for the air source to fall back on. So I do think that that is directionally what at least I had hoped for and wanted, and it seems what would be more appropriate from a sustainability perspective. Once the team receives the updated cost information, which will be submitted at the end of May, they will have another discussion to decide which of those two options to include in the schematic design drawings. So that still is the kind of hot topic when it comes to sustainability and the school. Of course, there are still concerns about the overall cost of the project. You know, building materials, just your basic building materials, are increasing in costs, etc. And I expect that a lot of the discussions around cost and cost implications will take place also at the pre-meeting next week. But just latching on to that from a sustainability perspective. Yeah, that's the update so far.
Great. That sounds like good news.
Exciting.
And just one quick thing to add, sorry. So this is all still, the design still is aiming for the same standards as we talked about last time, which would not initially include actual installation of the solar panels themselves or installation of EV chargers, but rather making the school infrastructure ready for those things. They're not even talking about actual installation costs at this point. That's sort of a little wishful thinking. And so there's, they said, you know, if there's any other opportunity for Littleton to access funding or other initiatives to get those, that would be obviously fantastic, but it's not currently part of the plans. Yeah. So that was it.
Yeah, Rob.
I just have a quick question. I don't know if you know the answer to this, Charlotte, after listening to all this, but making it ready is fine. I mean, that if that's all they can do, that's fine. But has anybody bandied about what an actual installation cost of solar panels for a roof that large? I mean, you can put you can generate a lot of electricity with that size of roof. I mean, are we talking $10 million or $5 million or $2 million? I ask that because when you're looking for funding, whether it's from the state or, I mean, it's kind of good to know what's the ballpark that we're even talking about. Do you know? Has anybody said?
So they haven't said it in the meeting, but there is a pretty lengthy engineering cost analysis report, which I don't think it mentions it. I can go back in again. I can also share with the committee. But because it's not part of this schematic design, I don't think it has been mentioned. I'm due to speak to a couple of the people involved in the other net zero schools in the area, because that's certainly, I think, where we can get a sense of like what is the sticker price for actual installation. I think it would be interesting at least to see for the library and the Shattuck Center, like, you know, even other projects in and around Littleton, you know, what are those yielding as well. There was initial talk of a covered, covered parking lot. And, you know, again, you could imagine that yielding quite a lot of energy going back into the school. Anyway, so yeah, I don't think there has been an extensive discussion about that, just because they're, to me, it seems they're really just trying to get these basics kind of through the door.
Yeah, the only reason I bring it up, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, you might know more than me, but the library solar panels and the senior center solar panels it feels to me like they were add-ons. Like they were added late in the process as opposed to during the design phase.
So the library panels were the building was built with the infrastructure for them. They were added later, and I believe that earmark was about $100K that we got to fund that. It might have cost a little more than that because we might have used some of the leftover from the project to do that.
Right.
But that's the ballpark, I think. The senior center panels, I believe, were part of the overall project. So we could find what those costs were, but I think my guess is you're talking in the low hundreds of thousands, not,
Million.
another 5 million.
Well, the reason I bring it up is that, the library came via an earmark, right? Jamie Eldridge or whoever got the earmark, right? And the budgetary process is always interesting. I can see an opportunity for us to get funding for it, but we need to advocate for it. We need to ask for it. We need to know what we're asking for, which is the reason I'm asking the question. That's all. And we don't need an answer next week or anything else, but I think we should be prepared for it so that when we're starting to ask for it, we know what we're asking for. That was all. So.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I can definitely forward you what the info that the building committee shared, just in case it's in there.
I don't know who had their hands up first. Don, it looks like maybe you're first.
I haven't been following the school because you've been doing a good job with it, and I've been focusing on other things. But and of course, cost is always challenging, but it's good to have the structure there so there's the capability of adding on solar panels if that's possible. I mean, to have it ready for that is a big advantage. And the same thing for solar carports, which I gather is not part of it. And I see in other towns for some of the schools, they've planned for that, then they cut that. But once again, it'd be good having the capability of installing that at a later date, making sure the structure is there so you could do that. And it's just impressive seeing the solar panels in the Wayland school system, Lincoln Sudbury, UMass Amherst is impressive. I mean, it was just massive. And there may be funds that will come along to add those if need be. I'm glad to hear that, what you mentioned previously, the number one option is looking at geothermal, ground geothermal. I don't think there's much ledge there to prevent that. So that's nice as an option one. That's it.
Margaret?
Just to quickly clarify on Don's question, Sarah, if I may, just that readiness is non-negotiable. So yeah, just to clarify that the readiness part is not under question. It will be solar panel ready. Yeah.
Mine is just really quick, just reminder from the last time's minutes, and correct me if I'm wrong. I put down that Jamie Eldridge helped get funding for the library panels and also for the senior center panels. However, many towns are looking for this kind of help right now, which may mean a lot of competition for future solar panel installations. That's it.
And just quickly, I know with the library solar panels, the library was limited in how many they could put up because of the electric company, Littleton Electric Light Department. I assume there's no barrier being imposed by them, and I don't know the politics of it. I'm sure Sarah does, but I assume there's no opposition from the Electric Light Department on putting as many solar panels as you need.
On the school? Sorry, Sarah.
I don't know what their current, I was pleasantly surprised to see as many as there are on the senior center. So I'm not aware of what the.
Yeah. But I know talking to Mark, I realized there was a restriction, and hopefully the electric light department is a little more open these days as we're building ahead.
Yeah, Charlotte, I don't know if you know anything about that.
Because it's not been costed in the schematic design, I don't think that they've gotten into the details of how many they would or wouldn't be allowed. Like the design is to be ready, as in like they have to have the infrastructure to ready the building. How the rest goes seems to be sort of like a little like kicking that can down the road slightly, because they think they're mostly concerned about, like I said, this mechanical systems question, and then meeting the standards of having it ready, which is that in order to be that LEED certified school, in order to meet the MSBA reimbursement requirement. Yeah. I can certainly ask. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the last meeting in person, but yeah, I can definitely ask.
Okay. I think we need to go ahead and move on. I will say, so the Climate Leaders Conference was just yesterday, and Don and I were there, as well as Diane Dickerson from the TA's office. In the interest of time, I actually think we should probably push this to next meeting, because I have not had a chance to go back through my notes and collect all the good stuff to share with you guys. Yeah, I will say there was a lot of good stuff, and I'm sure, Don, you have a lot of good stuff to share as well.
Yeah, so just quickly, I arrived there, I guess, when the Secretary of Environment of Climate Action, Melissa Hoffer, was speaking. So I was in the balcony, which in this brick auditorium was not terribly good for hearing anything, and the secretary never puts anything in text, always talks casually, and there's no slides, no bullet points. So she did say some critical things, which I did hear from other folks, but I really don't have a good picture of that. I don't know. Did you hear much of that?
I can look back at my handwritten notes real quickly. She said that businesses are definitely seeing the business case for green energy. So that's, she started with some positives. 84% of businesses are keeping their climate plans as they were. They're not changing them in the current political climate. She started with a lot of good news, like 25% increase in global EV sales. Let's see. Yeah. This was interesting. She said that the bond rating agencies are paying attention to resilience efforts. So obviously towns need to write bonds to fund things. And so having a climate action plan and having, the municipalities focusing on resilience efforts actually is a helpful thing for those bonds that the town needs to have. Yeah, like I said, I would really like to go through my notes and share them separately, and then we can include those in next meeting and go over them, rather than to just like scattershot.
No,
but yeah,
no, that's fine. Just that it was several wastes of time up with the light fixtures and stuff, trying to figure out what's happening. So anyway, I'm hoping you got something. I mean, she did mention something about cuts in funding, and she apparently advocated for demanding there's no delay in doing climate action plans, but have no idea what the mechanism was. That was sort of disappointing. So, okay, I was just curious. Well, but I agree. Yeah, she pulled things together. There were some good things there, and we did get a chance to meet up with Tom of Birmingham of Canton, who gave us the presentation on a cap. It was nice to catch up on that. Okay, that was it.
Okay. The next item, recycling efforts. I put that on at Emily's request, and then unfortunately she couldn't be here tonight. I think she was hoping to maybe have one or two people go off and maybe look again at can we do something very targeted, like the possibly the plastic bag recycling, actually, pick something like that. I don't know if Margaret, if you have any thoughts about that.
I had looked into this briefly a year or two ago, and what I think would need to be done is to go to someplace big like Market Basket and ask if they would collect them there for us. What people were doing was collecting the bags, weighing them, and then bringing them to a place like Market Basket. Dollins would not do that. They use a different recycler than the ones that do that particular project, the one that does park benches and such. So that's what I recall. Could look into it again if Emily wants to do that.
Yeah, I think she was interested in maybe talking with you about what you had learned and seeing if we could just do a very targeted effort, since we did have some good recycling, zero waste day and so forth happening, and she wanted to make sure that we were continuing some of that work.
I haven't heard anything more about zero waste at the high school.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't either. All right, so I'll probably continue that for next month, and when Emily can talk about it a little bit more. I guess then we'll just, if anyone has any significant updates or new business that we need to add, Charlotte, go ahead.
Just a really quick update. I spoke to Connor and he said he would be very happy to pull that EV charger data for us for the first 4 months of the year. So now that we are May 1st, he said he'd be collecting up that data, de-identifying it, and then we can work together again to run some of that analysis just to see if there's been any changes in uptake of the EV chargers since the fee changes, and also installation of new chargers. So I should have something for you guys by next meeting to share on that. And then actually just one bit of a random thought, honestly, but I was just wondering if at some point we might want to invite the tree guy, Bransfield Tree Company, the new leasee over at Nagog Orchard. Reading the management plan, there seems to be quite a lot of emphasis on sustainability, and I think topics that potentially we would be interested in. And I just thought it might be kind of cool to invite him or one representative from their company to talk to us and just kind of understand a little bit about their vision for sustainability and stewardship in Littleton, and just maybe introduce ourselves. So,
yeah, I can add something there. I go to other conferences, conservation conferences. So I've talked to people who are conservation agents who regulate areas, including where he has 2 operations, the people in Stowe and also in Lincoln. So it's interesting. He's sort of a free-form person, has a lot of very good ideas. The agents in each of those places like what he's doing. In Stowe, they mentioned they had hoped to work with him, but he wasn't the lowest bidder or something. But they like what he's doing. In Stowe, he has an operation that's somewhat messy, and that's all how you manage stuff. But he mentioned he doesn't need to have all his materials here in Littleton, the orchard. In Lincoln, where he has an operation, the town hasn't worked with him, but he's working with some private groups that are doing some very impressive sustainable type things. So he has definitely good ideas and good capability. I mean, his company is mostly him. So yeah, in some ways, we're fortunate to come across him, and it's more or less dumb luck, I think, that things sort of fit together.
All right. So
and-
why don't I see about when that might fit in our schedule and
Right. So
and when that might-
I think we're going to be happy with what he's doing. He has very good, sustainable ideas. So in some ways, we're fortunate. The real question is, how does things get managed and how do they get monitored? And if there are problems, how do you fix it? So,
Okay. Did anyone else have an update that they wanted to share?
just quickly in the MVP too, I haven't really had a chance to read much of it. The next meeting we should do that, but I do see comments back and forth about town administrators saying that there isn't the staff power to do that. But I do see that you can also hire a vendor for doing some of the planning, but it will take more commitment on our part. So anyway, I haven't had a chance to read through all those documents, but I will. It should be on the agenda next time. And hopefully John will have a chance to look at it too.
Okay. Just okay. Anyone else?
I just wanted to make a comment on Charlotte's comment about the EV charging, because I was taking a walk and near one of the apartment complexes and noticed that there was a plug-in hybrid there just parked in the regular parking lot, and I was thinking, I wonder if they go just down the street or to the library or something and plug in. So just comment.
I'll be
Okay.
to see the report because they're not marketing it at all, so it would be helpful if they actually try to get the word out a little bit more. But I do see more cars parked there, so I'm feeling a little better that there are at least a few more people are getting charged in town. Sorry, Sarah, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, that. Yeah, I have something, but I will add to. Actually, a friend asked me. She had a relative coming in town with an EV and wanted to know where the person could charge their car, and I started listing them off, and we have quite a number of them in town. So that was actually really nice to be able to make that list. Although I did hear yesterday at the conference that there is sort of an appetite for municipalities getting out of the business of being the car charging owners.
What?
Just, I guess I heard the analogy of the towns aren't expected to run the gas stations, so why are they expected to charge the cars? I guess I think that the municipalities have acquired a lot of the car charges because there were grants to do that, but ultimately the model may
Is
need to.
Is it the capitalists that are complaining, or is it the municipalities that are complaining? Because anytime the government can do things efficiently and cheaper, I'm happy to have them do it. I don't need to be subsidizing some corporation's profit center. With that said, whatever. I don't care. I was just
Whatever. Okay, so so my item, I did just want to. This is actually just a committee thing. I wanted to mention that I would like to invite someone else to take the chair of the committee for next year, possibly. I do have one more year on my term, and I've been on the committee for probably longer than I belong here. So it would be nice though to be able to transition with someone else so that I didn't just be chair up to the end and leave. So I would ask you guys to think about that, and I will put it on the agenda for next time. And
maybe a model would be co-chairing it with someone for the next year to cut back and transition someone in. And that might be a possibility.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, the core of being the chair is running the meetings, doing the agenda, and just, watching the email and a little bit of coordination with the town. So for the next year, I certainly still would, I would actually love to pay more attention to the Energize site. So that might allow me to do a little bit more of that. So anyway, we don't have to discuss anymore, but I just wanted to let you know I'm going to put that on the agenda for next time, so you can think about that. And then if there's nothing else, then I guess we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
And a second.
Second.
All right. Who's willing to vote to adjourn?
Yay.
Charlotte. I have to go around for a roll call vote. That's the rules.
Timeline. Errol just showed up next to me, so I'll just video.
All right. So on the motion to adjourn, Charlotte, vote.
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Margaret.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm also yes. And Michelle, thank you very much for joining us and for the work that you're doing with us.